Tell me if you've ever felt like this, where God has called you to do something, but it is going to require sacrifice. It is going to require surrender on your part. Maybe the thing he's asked you to do feels a little bit crazy. Maybe it doesn't make sense in the way of the world. And that's exactly what my guest, Camille, is going to talk about today. Camille is going to talk about this process of surrender that she had to go through with God and where that's landed her and her family now. It is such a fun episode. Camille is incredible, and I hope you love her as much as I do. Hey friend, welcome to Milk and Honey with Lemon. The Bible says in Numbers 14:8, and if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It is a rich land flowing with milk and honey. On this podcast, we talk about stepping into that overflow that God has for us by becoming those ultimate Proverbs 31 women. Hey, I'm Lemon. I am just like you, sister friend. I knew God had something more in store for me, but I couldn't see a way out of the laundry piles. And frankly, I resented that Proverbs 31 woman. How was I going to live up to the hype? That is until I found out how to really step into becoming this Proverbs 31 woman through leadership development. In this podcast, you're going to find financial freedom, leadership growth, and motivation so you'll be able to do all the things God has called you to do with ease and really step into that land of milk and honey. Welcome back to the Milk and Honey podcast. I'm your host, Lemon Price, and I'm so excited because I have my friend Camille Campins-Adams here. She is a seasoned writing coach. She's actually my writing coach. She is a book launch strategist and a motivational speaker dedicated to empowering people through this transformative art of writing. And y'all, she is so good at it. I'm not going to lie. She has this incredible, extensive experience in the writing industry. And she's really good at just authentic storytelling, which I really love. She's the CEO of Way Media and Marketing, and she provides personalized coaching to aspiring writers and strategically guides authors through successful book launches to really make an impact. She's just incredible. I could go on. I could say a lot of things about Camille, but just thank you for being here, Camille.
I am so honored to be here, and you honor me, Lemon, with just your compliments. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. I don't say it unless I mean it. And truly, y'all, I can tell you, Camille is like the biggest cheerleader of authors and writers. And she is so patient with me. And I know if she's this patient with me, she's got to be great for everybody else because we are close friends and she could smack me if she wanted to. And we don't live that far apart from each other. She really could smack me with a 2x4 if she wanted to. But she is one of the most patient and loving and encouraging people I've ever met. And as a book writing coach, I think you're just incredible. So I wouldn't say it unless I meant it. So again, just thank you for being here, friend.
Thank you. I am honestly, you're making me emotional because we've known each other for, oh my gosh, what, a year and a half now?
Yeah, maybe longer. It's been a while.
It's been a while. And the whole relationship was God-led. It really was. And you can look back and say, my goodness, you can see God working, especially in hindsight.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's just been phenomenal getting to know you. And then now I'm in Girl Power Alliance with you, which has been incredible. I'm going through Radiant Leadership Academy with you right now, which has been life-changing. I have to say, it's just been such an incredible experience. And I am so grateful for that. And God knows what he's doing, girl.
Girl, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I say this all the time. And so I love that we're going to talk about this, actually. I love that you said that because I want to talk about obedience and surrender today, which I'm sure but she's a book writing coach. Let's give some practical tips on writing a book, and maybe Camille needs to come back and do a second one. But talk to me about this season because like you said, I mean, we've been friends for a long time and I've seen every iteration of the business. You've seen every iteration of mine over the last 18 months to 2 years. And so talk to me a little bit about the journey you've gone on to get to the place where you are.
Oh, yes. So I want to start by saying that God's timing is perfect. And there is something absolutely miraculous in the waiting. And I've been trying, right? I've been trying to grow my own business since 2018. I knew that God was calling me to start a business, but it was very slow growth. And I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. Right? I knew I was supposed to start a business, but I was trying a little bit of this, trying a little bit of that. And it wasn't really sticking because it wasn't really what I was meant to be doing. And then it hit me one day that book coaching was really what I needed to lean into. But that required leaving a more consistent job, right? And so I started leaning into book coaching, and that's when I started working with you. And I was doing well, but I wasn't doing incredibly, right? Like I wasn't making enough to flat out retire my husband or provide for the family on my own. It was a nice income, but I was also spending a lot of money on education and tools and all the things. So I was struggling a little bit. And all of a sudden, I got this call. Actually, I texted someone that I knew, and I was like, you're not going to believe, who I'm working with right now. And it was someone he had referred to me years ago. And he wrote me back immediately and said, I need a copywriter. Can you come work for me? And I was like, what just happened? And I kid you not, Lemon, that morning I had looked at my bank account and I said, God, something's got to change, because we've been living paycheck to paycheck. Like we weren't in a place that was comfortable financially. And for John to say that he wanted to hire me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And I was like, that's fine, but I'm building my business and I would have to make a certain amount of money. And he's like, yeah, he's absolutely, that's not a problem. From the moment that we had that interaction to about 4 days later, I started the job. It was just crazy how it all happened really quickly. But between him offering me that job and me accepting, I cried and I cried, because I was like, God, I don't want to go back to working a full-time job. Like I want to continue to build my business. But the act of surrender and obedience that he was calling me to was actually to not just shut down my business. Like that didn't mean I needed to shut it down. It just meant that there was a lesson. There was some reason why I needed to take this job, right? There was a reason why I needed to do the thing that I didn't want to do, because it was going to equip me for who I am today and the business that I was supposed to be actually starting pretty soon thereafter. And so it's just amazing, Lemon, how, and I'll get into way too, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but it's just incredible how God sees the big picture, and we're looking at the moment and we're like, man, my business, like I would lose sleep and cry because I felt like I was saying goodbye to a dream. But that's not at all what was happening. God was forming me and shaping me and chipping away and creating the diamond that I needed to become. And I'm far from that diamond, but that job, even though it was only for 11 months, it gave me so many tools and skills that I needed to launch Way. And Way actually was launched while I was working that job and while I had the financial security to be able to launch the company without having to worry about how I was going to pay the bills.
I love that. I love what you said. So I just heard this literally yesterday. Somebody said to me, like, how when you're in the wilderness, right? And you're like in this season where you're in the wilderness and you're like, I want to grow the business, but I need the rest and I need the provision and I need all these things. She was like, the provision doesn't come unless you're walking like in alignment with God. And I was like, okay, thanks for sharing that. What a gut punch sometimes. But then she was talking about how when we're in the wilderness, God will give you manna. And manna was never, like, people weren't thriving with manna. They weren't in this abundant place. It was just enough to sustain you and be the provision. And it sounds to me like when you're saying that, like this was like a manna season, right? Like you were here, you were being provided for, there was sustenance for you. But then that wilderness season, right? Every season lends to itself. And so you're in the wilderness, right? God's providing just enough, but he prepared you for the bigger thing that you're doing. So talk about, how did Way come about, and tell me about Way.
So essentially what happened was, while I was this full-time position, I actually signed more book coaching clients. And I was like, okay, like I literally I'm like working full-time, but I have book coaching clients. That was still in the works and that was still happening. And God was continuing to send me that almost as a sign that you don't have to give this up completely. But what was most shocking to me is that when we were working together, just before I got this job, I had already felt that I needed to start speaking to audience building and platform building and the marketing side for authors, because so many authors struggle with visibility. They struggle to put themselves out there. They struggle to actually go and do the hard thing, which is the podcasts and the TV shows, or even just showing up on social media. It could be as simple as like literally posting on social media regularly. because a lot of authors are actually introverts. A lot of writers are just introverted by nature. And so I was like, okay, I really am feeling like I need to help authors with visibility and building their author platform. That's when I launched Lucy. And I came up with the name. Lucy's like the personality of the platform. She's the patron saint of writers. So that's how I came up with that cutesy name. And that was a really challenging time. And as I was building all that, it was right before I got that job. And I just put a halt to all of it. But then literally a couple months after I started that position, I had a client come back to me. She was somebody that I had actually outsourced to a ghostwriter and an editor and all of that. And she came back and she was like, okay, the book is done. I need to publish it and I need to market it. And I was like, okay, I think God is calling me to help her with the launching and the marketing of her book, because I actually have a business degree in marketing. Oops, sorry. I have a business degree in marketing, right? And so that's where my background is. Naturally, I went back and I got a master's in creative writing later on in life because I've always loved writing, but I've been in marketing for a very long time. And so when she came to me, I said, okay, I think I'm supposed to do this. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to create a marketing agency for authors. Like I knew how to market, but how do you create an agency? And that's what I felt that I was being called to do. And that's when I teamed up with Shauna, who I actually met through you, Lemon, funny enough. And we hit it off and we've been really great friends. She had built a marketing agency in the past. So I reached out to her. I said, God is calling me to do this, Shauna. And I really feel like there's a reason why you're supposed to do this with me. And she's my partner, but not like I own Way, but she to me is so much of a partner because she's given her heart and soul to this company to help me build it to where it is. And she was actually the one that named it. She's so beautifully creative. I love Shauna so much. And so she came up with this name. We were talking about how we wanted it to be God and Holy Spirit led, right? And so she had brainstormed the name Way and what Way actually means. And we don't tell everybody this, but this is the rock on which we stand, right? This is the foundation. Way means women and Yahweh. And we don't put that out everywhere, but we as a company know that Yahweh is at the foundation of everything that we do, that God, Jesus, is who we have to continue to look to guide our steps. And as long as we do that, we will continue to act in obedience. We will continue to move forward in obedience, knowing that He is guiding our steps. And so essentially with Shauna's help, we launched Way. We helped Marsha, who I can talk to you about Marsha and even that process of surrender as well. But we helped Marsha build her platform. And then now we're in the middle of her book launch. By the time she's actually going to be a guest on this podcast, by the time she's a guest, it will have already launched. So it's coming out February 13th, 2024. And it's just, I can't describe it in any other way other than miraculous, Lemon. The way that this company has grown was absolutely miraculous. And it was 100% God. And I can't take any credit for it. Like I tell everybody, I tell the team, I'm like, this isn't mine. This is God's. This is a business that God has entrusted me with, but it is not my business. And I've never felt so truly convicted. And I've never had so strong of a knowing that this isn't mine, that I'm just the vessel or like the person He's using to get it out into the world.
I think that's so cool because I remember when we first started, you were like, I need to help authors launch their book, right? Like they don't have an email list or they even know how to email a list or they don't know how to do any of these sort of things. I was thinking about you actually the other day. I just finished a book and they had the epilogue in the back. And then she goes, for a bonus epilogue, go to this website. It was to her landing page, got myself a bonus epilogue, but now she's emailing me every single day about other books that are coming out and all these things. And I was like, Camille would love this. Like, it was such an easy thing to put on the last page of the epilogue, a couple lines down. Hey, you want to know what happens to this 3 years in the future instead of 6 months in the future? Here you go. And I was like, oh, that's smart. That's a smart way to grow your email list. But I knew that was a thing that you've been talking about doing for a long time. And so what was like the final tipping point for you to be like, all right, we're going to go all in on this?
So that's a whole nother thing, Lemon, because I was so reluctant to leave that job that I was at because that was what was paying my bills. And I was literally like, I don't want to pull a salary. I don't want to pull a salary. I want to just leave the money in the account and make sure that I can pay the team and that everyone else is cared for. And I actually had to bring in a fractional CFO who audited the books and gave me the green light and said, Camille, you can start pulling a salary, which is, again, I'm making what I was making at that job. Like, I just needed enough. I'm still in the wilderness in some ways because the business is growing. We're at that point where we're trying to scale it in accordance to whatever God's will is for this business. But I am still only meeting my basic needs at this point. And so we actually talked about this at RLA this past week, was this idea of, am I stewarding God's money the right way? And that's a whole nother conversation. But I feel so strongly about making sure that if I'm paying myself a salary or that I'm paying everybody else, that I'm stewarding that well so that God can trust me. Like, he's trusted me this far. How can he continue to trust me? But I know that if I continue to act in surrender and obedience, that's all I can do, right? All I can do is just continue to surrender. And for me, the tipping point was really just hiring that CFO, knowing I couldn't do everything. Like, I can do anything, but I can't do everything. I was drowning. I was trying to do way too much. And energetically speaking, if I'm not giving my all to this, it's not going to grow. And I was noticing that the team and the work was suffering because of my absence. And it was the thing that God had been calling me to for a long time. But I was like, nope. My fear is that I'm not going to have the money to pay myself. And so I was like really hesitant. But I do think in the end, I left at the exact time that I needed to leave, and that there was a waiting period that needed to happen. And I do think in the end, it all happened the way that it needed to.
I love that. Okay, so you're talking about the surrender, right? And bringing in other people, all these things. How has the surrender then shifted you, like, as a leader?
Oh my gosh. So there was a situation, actually, even this week, there was a situation with a team and disagreements and moments where team members weren't seeing eye to eye necessarily. And I'm like, literally yesterday, I was crying and I threw myself on my knees and I said, God, take it. Like, I can't carry this. Like, being a leader is so hard because I'm dealing with so many different people's personalities and emotions and thoughts and opinions. And it's not just my team, it's the clients too. Like, the clients' needs and emotions. And oh my gosh, do I absorb it and project it and amplify it? Like, I'm working on the fruit of the Spirit, girl, fruit of the Spirit, just peace, joy, love. I need to embody all of it because there's moments when I want to just pull my hairs out and say, this is just too much. Because it's an emotional process to launch your book. It's not being an author, putting yourself out there. All of it is it's a whirlwind. And I know specifically with Marsha, she had to surrender fully to the fact that this book was meant to be written. And at the very beginning when we spoke, and she's like, Camille, I want to get this book out there, but I'm afraid that it's a terrible book. I'm afraid nobody's going to care. I'm afraid that, who am I? Like, why would anybody want to read this book? And I had to coach her, even before she signed with us, I had to coach her through those limiting beliefs and help her see that her story matters. And now you have so many advanced readers that are reading the book, and launch team members, and just people that have gotten the first chapter. Because we also do, I'll give you a little snippet. We do a book waitlist funnel. So when you go out and you talk about the book before it's out, they can opt into the waitlist. And then as a free gift, they get the first chapter of the book. So now you've hooked them and they want to know what else happens in the book, right? They want the rest of the book. We've gotten incredible feedback, and like feedback that she journaled the other day, and we actually are going to include it in a newsletter, but she literally wrote, this was what I needed. This was God continuing to reinforce that I'm doing what I need to be doing. And God is so incredible at doing that, right? Like, when you are starting to doubt yourself or question whether you're really on the right path, he will continue to reinforce and show you that you're doing the right thing. And yeah, surrendering has completely shifted the way that I run the business, but also the way that I lead, the way that I communicate with my team. And I will tell my team, you may not like this, but I am in full surrender. Like, God is leading the way. It's not me. Like, I appear to be the leader here, but I'm not. I'm just like the facade. God is leading the way. And if that feels uncomfortable for you, then that's work that you're going to have to do on yourself. or maybe it's not the right company for you. It's not always an easy conversation to have, but we really try to have team members that are on board with surrendering to God and being fully obedient.
I love that so much. And okay, so you talked about how coaching Marcia too was also an experience in obedience and surrender. Can you talk to me about that, friend?
Yeah. So before Marcia ever signed her contract, and she's our very first client, right? So we did a phase 1 with her that built her author platform. And then we did phase 2, which was the book launch. And before we ever did that, before Way was even a real business, I had to coach her through that belief in herself. And, you know, what I love about Marcia's book so much is that her mother was this incredible woman of faith. I actually have this book called The Imitation of Christ, and I sent it to Marcia and I wrote on it and I said, this is your mother. She embodied Christ. She was Christ here on earth, essentially. If a person could embody Christ to this level, it was Adeline. She was just such an incredible human being. And there's verses throughout the Bible. So the fact that it was a Christian, I don't know that we're really selling it as a Christian book, but there's a lot of faith elements in the book. And so the fact that our first client was someone who believes so much in God, I was able to speak to God's will in her life and her calling throughout that process. Not everybody, you can't do that with everyone. If someone doesn't know Jesus, you can't say, hey, I know you're struggling. I know you're not sure if this book is good. I know you're not sure if this book is going to impact the world or if you should even try to get it out there. But I'm telling you that I've read it and that knowing you and knowing the story, that God has a greater purpose here. And there's a reason why your mother passed the way that she did. And let's use the bad for God's glory. And that's exactly what you're going to be able to do in this book. But I had the freedom to speak to that with profound confidence because 1, I was Holy Spirit led, and 2, she's a Christian. And I think that even for non-Christians, we can speak to them in a way where they know that we embody love and the fruit of the Spirit, really. Even if we don't speak to Jesus specifically, they can hear the message. But yeah, I think with Marcia, she just was really hesitant to move forward with the book because she's just a stay-at-home mom. She sees herself as a no one, but she's this incredible matriarch. And essentially, she could have been a CEO with all the work and everything that she did to raise the family of 5 children. She has 15 grandkids. She does every holiday huge, right? She goes all out. She literally has the skill set of a CEO, but she just was never an actual CEO. So she had all those doubts and fears and insecurities around being the person to step up and become visible in the process. And so it really just sharing my own belief in her and the belief that Christ has in what she's capable of.
I love that you get an opportunity to speak life into your clients and you get to pour into them and express the love that Jesus has for them and that there is a bigger purpose to the things that it is that they're doing. So what would you say to any of the listeners who are like, Camille, that's so great. It's working out for you the way that surrender has happened. What would you say if they're like, I can't, right? I got to hold on to the control or I got to go do this. What would you say to them?
I would say the miracles happen in the surrender. If I didn't surrender, I wouldn't have this business. I would still be working for someone else. I would never have lived into the purpose that God is calling me to live into. And the only way that you will become this incredible person or do the incredible things, the hard things in life is if you fully surrender and give it all to Him and allow Him to be the strength that you need. Because I have moments where I want to blow this business up and be like, I'm not doing this. This is too much work. Lemon, you've had a marketing agency before. I think you might even still have some ties. So you know what it is to have to fulfill and done for you services. It's not easy. There's a lot of client expectation, not to mention a lot of actual doing. While it's a lot. It's a lot. And the only reason that I'm still going is not because it's easy, because it's never been easy. It's because God is calling me. He is telling me to stay the course. And He's giving me the strength when I feel like I'm going to crumble. Like yesterday when I told you I literally threw myself on my knees and I said, God, take it. I can't. And I've been that person who's tried to be in control, and it didn't end well for me. So this has been the best it's turned out. And all I had to do was follow the calling, listen to the calling, answer the knock, right? And surrender it completely.
I love that so much, friends. Okay, how can people work with you, and then how can they find you, my friend?
So I have a Facebook group called Ink to Impact, and our goal there is to really help you launch your book and create a movement. So you can always find me on Facebook at Ink to Impact. And then our website is waymedia.marketing. There's no .com. It's waymedia.marketing. And all of the ways that you can reach out to us or work with us will be listed on there.
Perfect. Thank you for being here, friend. I'm excited. We're going to have to get you back just to talk about even the process of writing a book, because I know I get it in my DMs at least once a week from somebody listening to the podcast that they want to write a book in the future. So we're going to have to get you back on to talk about just how do you even start that? Because guys, Camille knows I've been working on the same book for a year and a half now. It's been a really fun process. So
yeah, but you know,
I feel like she's going to yell at me after we're done.
It's all perfect timing, right? Like the book that you were working on when we were working together wasn't ready to come out yet. And now you have a different book, and we just have to trust the process. It's not always the same for everyone, and it's not linear.
I love that. Oh, that's such beautiful advice. So just thank you for being here, friend. I love and appreciate having you here. I love getting to see your face a little bit more. So just thank you, friend.
Thank you, Lemon.
Okay, friends, now the cat is out of the bag about the book, and you know all the details about this book. And Camille, and she is amazing. She's working on her memoir right now. I'm in a mastermind with her. Her and I are just working with some other incredible authors to get our books done. And so you're going to want to connect with Camille. You're actually going to get to hear from some of her clients in some upcoming episodes about some really cool books that they are publishing and writing right now. So I am very excited. Be sure to go connect with Camille. If you have felt like it's time for me to write a book, or I really need to work on that surrender piece, then get in touch with her. I've linked to all of her social in the show notes, and you're going to want to go just hang out with her. Come join her free Facebook group. It's called Ink to Impact, and you're going to want to hang out with her. She goes live all the time. She's constantly pouring out. So be sure to connect with Camille, friend. Hey, friend, what a joy it has been to share today's journey with you. If you found a spark of inspiration or a nugget of wisdom that resonated, would you bless someone else by sharing this episode with them? It could be the encouragement they need to step into their purpose and calling. Also, if you could spare a moment to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I really appreciate your feedback, and it really helps our community grow. Remember, the road to discovering God's call for you isn't one you have to walk alone. So join me again next Monday for another episode where we'll continue to explore the depths of leadership and the heights of our heavenly calling. Until then, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep trusting in His plan. God bless you, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye, friend.